Folks, we are back at the Apex this week, which we have not been in quite some time. It's UFC Vegas 110, and something I got to let you guys know about. Any odds presented in this video are going to be brought to you by Cloudbet. Why do I mention that? Well, because Cloudbet is the official sponsor of this video, and they are a fantastic sports book. So if you're looking to get some action on the card for UFC Vegas 110 or many other sports and or combat sports events, you can do that at the link in the description. And if you use promo code 138MMA, you can get yourself access to a sick welcome package. So make sure you do that. Use the promo code, use the link, and that helps the channel, but also helps you because you get access to a awesome sportsbook in Cloudbet. Also, all the rest of my links are in the description of this video. And now we're going to jump right into the first fight. We're at 115 pounds with Talita Alencar, and she takes on Ariane Carnelossi. Now, this is a difficult one to really get a good read on, and I will tell you why as we go through this. But let's look at the numbers first. Carnelossi has a lot more experience. She's 15-3 as opposed to the 6-1-1 for Alencar. Now, the last five, 3-1-1 for Alencar, the extra one there being a draw, 3-2 for Carnelossi. So very comparable there. It's just that Carnelossi has a whole lot more fights. So there's that. Experience is a real thing. Now, Alencar competed in jiu-jitsu, things like that, which is cool, but it's not the same. It's not the same as a fight. There are a lot of people who are better than me at jiu-jitsu that I'm confident I could beat in a fight. Now, I'm not saying that I can beat everybody in a fight that's better than me in jiu-jitsu. I'm saying that that those two things aren't one-to-one, right? That it's not like, oh, if you're better at jiu-jitsu, you're going to win the fight. So having the jiu-jitsu experience is cool. It doesn't always translate the best, and we've seen that quite a bit in the UFC. So there is that, but it is a good skill set to have. It's just not. You get what I'm saying. You're nitpicking if you're complaining right now, all right? So check yourself. Now, for Carnelossi, here's some stuff. I think she's technically a better striker than Alencar, and not because she's a great striker. It's because Alencar's not a good striker. Now, we'll talk about the skills for both of them here, but for Carnelossi, she's just decent, right? She's got good enough power. She's a strong girl. She's very physical. However, her striking defense isn't good at all. But girls got deltoids that look like basketballs. So it's like, you imagine she can pack at least even like something of a punch, even if she's arm punching. You know what I mean? So there is that. She's a decent grappler as well offensively. Defensively, not as much, but offensively. She will muscle her takedowns, which is kind of a problem, but it's also not a problem in this fight because Alencar is very small for the weight class, even at 115 pounds. So she can just muscle her to the ground. But do you want to do that against the jiu-jitsu girl that doesn't really have much other than jiu-jitsu? I don't know. Whatever. Either way, there's that. Decent cage push. That could be a path for her. Cage pushing is a good way to negate a jiu-jitsu player. There's not a cage in jiu-jitsu most of the time. Except for that one place that Couch Warrior commentates for, whatever. But either way, there's not a lot of cages in jiu-jitsu. Good ground and pound for Carnelossi, but again, her takedown defense just isn't good. Now, on the other side, for Alencar, here's the thing. Her striking, I put average, and I feel like that's about right. Like her striking is, here's where I could just try to sound all smart and whatever and smoke. Do you guys think you would think I sound smarter if I used like all the buzzwords like, oh, her striking is serviceable or something like, you know what I mean? Like if I said something like that rather than good, average, decent, things like those. I'm trying to relate to the common man and not trying to sound smug. So just let me know if you think I should start using words like serviceable and talking about people's process. I don't know. I'm not knocking on channels that do that. I just think it's funny that everybody started doing that. Either way, whatever. It's the same concept. You get what I'm saying? It's good enough against low-level competition. That's what it is. Like, it's not going to get you anywhere. If you didn't have the grappling and you're just striking, you're not getting anywhere, right? But it's good enough to get her into the grappling at times. And that's where she wants to get. She lacks open mat takedowns. However, Carnelossi doesn't have good takedown defense. So something's got to give. She does, once she gets to the mat, have a lot going for her. Good top pressure. She'll advance position well, and she's very position over submission. Once she gets to a solid position, she starts to ground and pound, typically mount, right? Mount is where she wants to get mostly. It's jiu-jitsu styling, so that's where she wants. Once she gets there, she starts with the ground and pound. What happens when you're getting punched in the face and someone has mount on you? Well, you want to stop getting punched in the face. So you try pushing off, you try bucking, you try all this stuff. When that doesn't work, you turn over because then you're going to try to get to your feet by turning over and giving up your back. Great, she takes the back. From there, that's where she tries to go for the rear naked choke and often can get that. That is her process, if you will. So there you go. We're using buzzwords in this one, guys. This is probably the only breakdown you're going to get me using buzzwords. But her cardio is not that good. We've seen her fade because of cardio. In fact, it cost her in the Contender Series fight. She was looking solid until there was a draw because she just got wrecked in the third. Could be a big problem for her. I'm going to take Alencar because I think she has a path here that is where she can use skills, right? Her skills. Whereas Carnelossi is kind of just like trying to be the more physical fighter in this fight. And I think that can work, and she can absolutely win. And she is, I don't know what the exact odds are, but I think she's a big underdog. I didn't write them down for this one, as you can tell. I don't know why I chose to pick this one as one of the few I didn't write it down, but I didn't. Either way, I'm going to take Alencar. I think she's a slight favorite, and I get why, but just this is a pass for me. I think I'm staying away. Let me know what you think. We got a welterweight matchup next between Phil Rowe and Seok Hung Ko. And for Ko, 5-0 in the last 5 fights. Came in on the Contender Series, got a win over a complete mystery of an opponent. Couldn't really find any information on him or any fight footage. Makes his debut against Oban Elliott. Looks amazing as an underdog in that fight. Comes through, beats Oban just pillar to post. And he's fighting Phil Rowe. He's coming off a win over Angelosa. Yeah, Angelosa. 3-2 in his last 5. If you remember, we cashed on the win over Angelosa. Now, that was a sweaty one because he was losing until he wasn't. And that's typical for a Phil Rowe fight. The guy kind of needs a finish to get a win. He'll lose the minutes and then get that finish. And then when he gets the finish, you're like, oh, man, good win there, man. But then you're also like, wow, why was I sweating so much? Well, it's because he was probably losing the minutes up until then. But that's okay because the guy's still getting these finishes, right? When we look at this matchup, we'll start with the Ko side. Good striker. Dude darts in and out really well. He's super light on the toes. I would demonstrate, but slippery floor and I'm wearing socks, so that's not good there. But volume. Good 1-2. Just throws the 1-2 a lot. That's how he keeps the volume going. He starts building off of that eventually, but he starts out with just a lot of 1-2s typically. Good head movement, heavy leg kick. So dude's keeping his head moving, throwing his 1-2s, light on the toes, a lot to like. Heavy leg kicks. Works the body really well. Counter strikes really well. The one thing that keeps me from bumping him up to a solid striker is the fact that every now and then he just dips his head and wings these bombs and just starts winging them. And you're like, what? Wait, where was that really clean striker I saw like 30 seconds ago? What are we doing here? And the reason that the problem is because it opens him up for head kicks, knees, things like that. And, that's just kind of dangerous. And he could look really great in the striking, and then he just starts like winging these crazy overhand power shots or like, throwing something from the next state over. And you're like, what the heck? So outside of that, fantastic in the striking. It's just every now and then he gets a little crazy for me. So solid grappler, though. I believe he has like a Sambo World Championship under his belt sometime in the 20-teens. Good sprawl, so he's hard to take down. Really good takedowns from the clinch, whether that be up against the cage or in space type of clinch. And good throws as well. Top pressure is there. The ground and pound is there, as we saw in the last fight. There's a lot to like in the grappling. Ko looks like a very well-rounded prospect. Let's put it that way. On the other side, for Phil Rowe, dude could put out anybody. He's got good striking with a ton of power. When this guy starts landing those shots, he gets you doing the chicken dance real quick. Decent volume, though. Nothing crazy, but decent enough volume. Controls the range fairly well. Once you get past his long range, then you can kind of dictate what you want to do. But he is fairly good at keeping guys at the end of his punches, and he does have really good straight punches. So he can keep guys out there at that range when he's landing those shots. Because for the long, lankier strikers, which Phil Rowe is, the most of your power is going to be at the end of your punch, right? You're not going to get these like in tight strikes that are going to be super, super powerful like you would for a stockier kind of fighter. But those long rangey guys, when they throw those big straight punches, that's where their power comes. Now, the long range hooks can land as well, but and with some power, but it's not their straight punches are typically the best for the long fighters. Let's put it that way. Good grappler, right? Super active from his back. He uses his length, his natural toolbox right there, his natural ability. He uses that really well, and he's got a really good choke arsenal because of it. But the problem is he can be willing to work from his back. So let's take a look at the odds. Now, I haven't forgot about that. You might see these, and you can get these over on CloudBet. So if you want to check them out, that's where you can check them out. Links in the description. Promo code 13MMA. For Ko, he's a -204 favorite. You might be like, well, that's recency bias. The guy just beat Oban Elliott, who was a total fraud, or whatever. It's, that's how most fans are. But you can say that's total recency bias. And I would not argue too hard because realistically, he has only gotten one win in UFC, right? Phil Rowe plus 177. This is a guy that's been around for a while, fought some pretty darn good competition, beat some of them. Clearly, he's 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a big win, right? But I kind of understand the line because Ko's going to be winning the minutes most likely. I feel like he probably wins the minutes at a high clip. So Rowe is going to be like one of those, I need a finish, and if I don't get a finish, I'm losing type of fighters in this fight. And I think that's why the line is where it is. Now, if we saw this at like minus 500, that would be where I'd say, yeah, the recency bias is getting out of hand. You got to take Phil Rowe. But I don't think that's the case. I think Ko's going to win this fight based on the minutes, and I think he can even get a finish of his own. Give me Ko to get this one done. I think the odds are fair, and like I said, you can get them on CloudBet. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you next time. 115-pound matchup here where Montserrat Ruiz takes on Ardelean. Now, Ardelean's 3-2 in her last 5 fights. However, the 2 losses were both very close, and there's honestly an argument she won both of those. There's an argument she lost both of those, and that's what happened. But there's an argument she won both of those. So, yeah, the 10-7 record kind of could easily be, 12-5, for example. So they were close. They were competitive. On the other side, Ruiz, 2-3 in the last 5. Happens. She's very undersized for even this division, which is kind of a rough thing because it's 115 pounds. This matchup is interesting because there's another strawweight fight on this card, Carnelossi versus Alencar. Honestly, I would have matched these differently. I'm not the matchmaker, but since they're on the same card, it made sense. I would have put Ardelean against Carnelossi. I felt like their experience and their styling and size matches up better. And I would have put Ruiz versus Alencar, both of them being extremely small 115ers. I think that would have made a better matchup. Plus, also, it's just the way it goes, but with their styles. But it isn't what happened, so here we are. We got this one. That's how I would have matched them up. Now we're here. When we look at the odds, CloudBet's got you covered with minus 350 on Ardelean and plus 294 on Ruiz. And you might be thinking, Alice, Ardelean is a massive favorite. What the heck? Well, let's see if we can figure out why. Is that an oversight? Is that something that makes sense? Let's check. So for Ardelean, she's a good striker, right? Like you see a lot of losses. Earlier in her career, she didn't look the best, but she's been improving. She really has. Her striking is good. For the division, it's good. She has good volume. She has good combinations, and she'll put her punches and kicks together. She's got good leg kicks and decent enough power. It's not amazing. It's not bad. It's good. It is good. It's not even just decent. Like it looks fine, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a good striking base. It's hard for people to grasp that because she's like a TikTok person, I guess. I don't know. I don't have TikTok. I've never had TikTok, but apparently that's where she's famous. And because of that, you can't say that she's good at something without people losing their mind. She's a good grappler, though, too. So she's good in both areas. She's got good throws and good ground and pound. Now, she's not as good of a grappler as a striker, in my opinion, but she's good, and she's fairly physical. So that helps. Now, she's going against somebody in Ruiz who is a decent striker. Abysmal defense, but a decent striker. She has good flurries, and she'll use them to close distance. She'll come in with her flurries, and just if that works, then that's great. If it does not work, well, she's probably toast. Now, the grappling, this is where she typically gets things done. Her ground and pound volume is good, but it's the head and arm throw, or whatever it's called in judo. I don't know the Japanese names for things. I don't speak Japanese, so there is that. But the head and arm throw, or whatever you call it in judo, which you land in the scarf hold, which I do know this one. Scarf hold is also called kesigatami. I do know that one, but we're going to call it scarf hold because I speak English, and that is what we're talking about in this video. So there you go. Head and arm throw lands in the scarf hold. Now, if I'm Ardelean and I know that this is what she does, that is the thing she does, I'm working on my defense for that, right? Now, how do you defend that? Well, you bridge up into, roll across your shoulders while still bridged up, and you end up on top. It doesn't work every time, but it's a pretty good defense against somebody that is going for the scarf hold. And it works extremely well if you are the bigger, stronger person than the person that is on top. Ardelean is the bigger, stronger person than Ruiz, at least from what we've seen last time, right? Another way to get out is you can crawl around to the back, but like that's usually if you're the smaller person, that's a better option. Doesn't mean you can't do it if you're bigger. I'm speaking in generalizations, not in absolutes. Only the Sith deal in absolutes, my friends. So for Ardelean, if she's practiced that escape for the scarf position, I think she has a really good chance of doing well against Ruiz here. I understand that everything on the feet is probably going to be Ardelean, and in the grappling, it's a really good chance that even if Ardelean gets taken down, she's able to get on top. That's why she's minus 350. I think she wins here. It's a fun fight for the most part. I think it's going to be one that's Going to be a little more exciting than people think it will be. So I'm taking Ardelean, even though she's a big favorite. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the bantamweight matchup here with some title implications, honestly, because the women's bantamweight division doesn't really have a ton of contenders. Like, we know the next fight, don't get me wrong, but who's next, right? Who's after that? This is a chance for either of these ladies to put their claim on that. We have Ketlen Vieira taking on Norma Dumont. Now, Dumont is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She's looked impressive. She's gotten wins every single time out in her last 5, but we're 3-2 on Vieira. Now, she's had some really good performances, and a couple of them that were not as great. Obviously, that's how you get a couple of losses in there. But she has shown that she still competes at the highest level. She's gotten wins recently in her fights against fighters that, were favored. So she's come through, done what she needed to do. Now, when we look at this one, we're going to start on the Dumont side. Good striker with good striking defense. I think that's probably one of the best things for her on the feet. She moves her head well. She doesn't really get hit a lot. She's really good at making her opponents either miss the strike or kind of inactive by just blocking out their game on the feet. So for me, Dumont's striking defense is her best thing. She has decent power, but she doesn't seem to be able to get finishes. The power is like not knocking people down, not knocking people out, but when she hits them, they definitely get a little wobbled each time. Or not each time, but you know what I mean. Like when she lands her clean shots, she can wobble fighters a bit. She just doesn't seem to have the killer instinct to get them out of there. I mean, she straight up had Chelsea Chandler sprinting away. Now, that's Chandler. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, that's not like a crazy thing. But it shows that the power is there. She just needs to be able to have that killer instinct to follow up on it. So it's just decent. Good counter striker. I like that. Most of her combinations actually come off of her counters. So for Dumont, she's throwing a lot of single shots or maybe 2 punches at a time or 2 strikes at a time, for example. But then when she hits a counter and really cracks somebody with one of those, that's when she'll start going into that combination. So good there. Problem is her volume. It's so inconsistent. Some fights it looks really good. Other fights it's just not there. So that's a problem for her. But all in all, Dumont's pretty safe on the feet, and that's kind of what she emphasizes. Grappling. Good there as well. Solid takedown defense. She can push you up against the cage, just win minutes, grind you out, and she does that plenty in her fights, and she's got really good top pressure. If she gets on top, you're not getting up, typically. You're just getting flat. So on the other side, Ketlen Vieira. She fights kind of similar, right? Good striker. She's probably got a little more power in the hands. She hasn't knocked anybody out in a long time, don't get me wrong, but she does hit pretty darn hard, and she strikes with flurries. Now, the problem with the flurries is a lot of times she's open to counters in those flurries, which makes her striking defense not the best. So there is that. Now, the flurry, good in itself. If she could mind her P's and Q's a little bit on those entries with the flurries, that would be ideal for her. So she can come in, land her shots, and then do what she needs to do. A lot of times it's flurry to get somebody up against cage press them there, do what she needs to do against the cage, etc. But for this example, we're just talking about the flurries in themselves, and that does leave her open to counters. In the grappling, she's good there too. Decent takedowns, nothing special, but decent. Good top control. Pretty good takedown defense. In fact, probably some of the better takedown defense in the division. Good cage push as well, but she can be held against the cage. She's good on the offensive cage push, not so much on the defensive cage push. Now, this fight is close on paper. Like, you look at them, like what they do, and you see a lot of similarities, right? The thing that's going to make me side with Norma Dumont is better striking defense, and I think everything that Vieira does, Dumont does as well, and in most cases, just the slightest bit better. So for me, it's a Norma Dumont side, but let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the next up. We're going to match up at 185 pounds. Yes, you read that right. It's Donte Johnson. You might remember him from this season's Contender Series, where he fought at heavyweight and beat an absolute skyscraper of a man. Yes, he did do that. He's 5-0 in the last 5, 6-0 on the career, undefeated fighter. Now he moves down to 185 pounds to take on Sedriques Dumas, who just seems to have the weirdest career, right? He's 10-3, so overall record's pretty good. 2-2 and a no contest in his last 5 fights. It's always something, right? He got kicked in the nuggets in his last one. He had the eye poke TKO loss, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it happened. He's taking guys to decision that you're like, dude, like, why? How do you take that guy to decision? That guy actively tries to not go to decision, whether he wins or loses, and he's doing it. But Sedriques Dumas, he's here. He's stepping in, supposedly, to fight Donte Johnson. Now, Donte Johnson, minus 311 over on CloudBet. You can get the comeback on the underdog at plus 264 for Dumas. Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, and it might not seem like it at first, but there is. And let's talk about Dumas first. He's a decent striker with decent power. Good straights at range. He's got, pretty long straight punches, and he's got a good head kick. he's wide open to be encountered, but he does have a good head kick, and that could be a really good path to him or for him in this fight, and I'll talk about it in a minute. He's got decent grappling as well. He likes to slam dudes, and he's got a pretty good guillotine, but takedown defense kind of sucks. So there's that. He's just decent enough everywhere. On the other side, for Donte Johnson, we don't really know much about his grappling. We haven't seen a ton of it, right? Especially not in his pro career. He's very athletic, though. And we have seen him just pounce on ground and pound quick, but that's about it. But when it comes to his striking, we've seen some good stuff, and it could be an issue of these guys are going to be faster down at 185 pounds than they were up at heavyweight and light heavyweight, where he's spent his pro career thus far. But he does have good movement. He darts in and out pretty well. He's got pretty good power. He's got a good leg kick. He'll come in with a flurry, but he is open to being countered when he comes in a flurry. The big problem for Donte Johnson, he's like 5'8", right? Or 5, yeah, I think he's like 5'8". Now, that is real small for a heavyweight. But that's still pretty gosh darn small for a middleweight. I'm 5'8". I am. And if I were to take a fight today, I can make flyweight without trouble, right? Flyweight, that's 125 pounds. This dude's 5'8", and he's dropping 2 weight classes to get to middleweight. So it makes me think that he's probably still not quite where he needs to be, or this dude's bones are just like the size of a mammoth. You know, the whole big bone thing might be a real thing if we're looking at Donte Johnson's junk. Nobody will know what this is until they perform the autopsy on Donte Johnson years down the road when he finally passes, and they say, oh wow, this guy actually did have mammoth bones, and that's why he couldn't get lower. So I don't know. It's really strange. Apparently he used to be a really big guy, like real big, and now he's down to 185, which is good progress. But that's a problem because the head kick is what I'm talking about. If you're a guy in Sedriques Dumas and you're flicking that head kick up there, it ain't going to take a whole lot to get up to 5'8", and he could absolutely do that here. Everything else tells me Donte Johnson wins, but he's minus 311 as a favorite, and that's a big pass when you got a guy that could absolutely land that head kick. Do I think he beats Sedriques Dumas? Yes, I do. So I'm going to take him. Do I think Sedriques Dumas can head kick him and put him out? Yeah, I do. When you make picks, it doesn't always mean that that's an absolute and there's no other possibility. So I'm going to point those out to you. You see where the check mark is. You know where I picked it. You can track it if that's what you need to do. But I'm telling you there's possibilities on both sides, and I'm sticking with Donte Johnson as a pick, but I'm staying away from him. Let me know what you guys think. 45-pound matchup. Timmy Cuamba comes in 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He takes on Chang Lee, who is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We're going to start on Lee's side here. Good striker. I like that he crashes the pocket with his knees really well, puts together some decent combinations, and he's very durable. We've seen the guy get hit and just eat it. Doesn't even matter to him. He's good in the clinch. Works those knees again, and he strikes well on the break of the clinch. So when they're clinched up or whatever and they're starting to come out, that's when he's throwing his shots and landing really well as they break off, rather than just trying to break off and get space. He's looking to get damage done in those opportunities. Good grappler as well. We saw this, really implemented in his last fight. He's got good top pressure, heavy ground and pound, but when he takes the back, he locks in that body triangle almost immediately. He's got good pace, really good cardio. This guy is a problem everywhere, but he's not a specialist necessarily anywhere. On the other side, for Timmy Cuamba, similar style, right? He's good everywhere, but not a specialist necessarily anywhere, right? Good striking, really nice body kick. I really like that. I think that's probably his best weapon on the feet is his body kick. He will mix up the levels on the kick after he has some success to the body, but that is where he typically starts with it. He starts slamming those body shots. He's got a really good fast 1-2. Nothing crazy outside of that as far as combinations, but he will put that 1-2 out there real quick. And sometimes he can chain it with the body kick, so that's something you like to see. Good grappler, really good takedowns, really good mat returns, but not so much on the control. He will let his opponents back up. But he does have cardio to do that for quite some time, so that is something that could be useful here for him. One other thing I want to highlight is the recovery. Because Timmy Cuamba, if you hurt him, you get him wobbled, cracked, whatever, the dude recovers super fast. And it's strange. Or even in addition to that, like in between rounds, he'll come back out looking way better than you expect based on maybe how a round ended. So Cuamba's recovery is very good, and that's something that very few fighters have. Cuamba's got it. So when we look at this fight, though, I think there's a lot to like on both sides, like I said. But I think Lee is going to be the guy that's just doing better in each position by, this much. So for me, I think it's Chang Lee all day. Not all day, that's a little extreme. But I do think he gets the win. I think he's going to be able to use his grappling. I think he's going to be able to use his striking. And I think he's going to be able to use that clinch. And I think he's going to be able to mix that all together pretty well and take home a win. Probably a decision, probably a close fight, probably back and forth. But I think Lee's going to take it on the scorecards. Let me know what you think. Got a matchup in the light heavyweight division next up where Kevin Christian makes his UFC debut. Got a win on the Contender Series, not this season, but the season prior. He's 5-0 in his last 5. He's 9-2 on the career. He came through on the Contender Series, got the win there. He takes on Billy Elekana, who got a short notice matchup to get into the UFC. Didn't look great. He's 8-2. One of those losses was that debut, but he bounced back and got a win in his last fight as an underdog where he cashed for us over Ibo Aslan. Over in Abu Dhabi, I believe it was. 4-1 in the last 5 for Elekana, that one loss being the UFC debut. Now, when you look at the odds, Cloudbet's got you covered here. They got -230 on Elekana, +199 on Kevin Christian. And you might be thinking, well, why is Billy Elekana -230 over anybody? They got to be missing something. Something's got to be wrong here. Or maybe they're onto something, and we're going to try to figure that out as we break this down, as we talk our way through it. So let's talk about Billy Elekana first, right? Good striker. I like the long, straight punches he has. Now, the long punches are usually good, but Kevin Christian's he's a skyscraper. So, like, this dude is long, lanky. It's going to be hard to be longer than a guy like Kevin Christian in this matchup. So that might be negated. But then again, we'll talk about Kevin Christian striking in a minute. But either way, Elekana, typically long, good long, straight punches. Kicks to all levels. You like that. And he can do it off of either leg. What do I mean by either leg? I mean, he can kick off the rear leg or the front leg. It doesn't necessarily have to do that like switch. You see a lot of Thai fighters do like a switch kick so they can kick with their lead leg. You get more of the karate or taekwondo fighters that kick off the front leg without switching. Now, that's a generalization. It's not. I'm not saying that that's the only way that only these fighters do this, and it's a generalization. So take that for what you will. But either way, he does pick his shots well, does Elekana, but sometimes he can be a little too patient in doing that. And we saw that in his last matchup. Even though he won, you kind of were like, man, turn it on. You're winning this fight. Why are you not just picking it up a little bit here? Because people were complaining it was a boring fight. I have a hard time finding fights boring, so maybe it's just me, but I was intrigued by it, but I do think he could have picked it up a little bit, especially as the fight drew on, and he was starting to pull away a little bit. So for me, the patience could come back to bite him at some point, but he did get the win, so I can't criticize him too much, and he came through as an underdog. Good knees up the middle, but he is willing to back up a lot of the time. Not every fight, but sometimes you'll find him just backing himself up. He's a decent grappler with pretty good takedown defense, and when he does get taken down, he's really urgent to get back to his feet. However, sometimes because he's so urgent to get back to his feet, he'll end up shoved up against the cage and held there. That can be a problem for him because he can lose minutes up against the cage, and that's how he's been controlled in fights in the past. He's got good top pressure, but he rarely wrestles, so he rarely gets on top. But if he does get on top, top pressure is pretty good. On the other side, for Kevin Christian. Now, this guy, I was very down on him going into the Contender Series, but I was also really down on his opponent. And his opponent still is horrible. So there's that. So he got the win, though. Credit to him. But we'll see what he does at the UFC. Now, they're giving him Billy Elekana, which is a matchup where you're like, okay, this is a fair matchup. A guy that's, 1-1 in the promotion. You're not giving him somebody that's on a big winning streak. That's fair. Their records look good on paper. They match up well. But for Kevin Christian, his striking, I'm being nice when I generally say average is what I'm going to give him. It's the knees. He's got good knees because he's a skyscraper of a human being. And if you pick your knee up, you can just land that sucker easy if you are that tall. But other than that, his striking just isn't good. And he tagged me in, I think it was an Instagram story because I was saying his striking's bad and he won the fight in his Contender Series. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but your opponent wasn't good either. And I hate to say that about fighters because I'm not, he does have, there is a skill set that he does Kevin Christian, but it's not the striking. The dude swings wild, his hands are low, and he has tall man's defense. There's just not a lot to like about his striking, but his grappling is good. I give credit where it's due. His grappling is good. I don't hate the guy. His striking is not this level, right? But he's active from his back. He's got a really good submission arsenal, and his long limbs really help, but he's also content to work from his back. I struggle to see how Kevin Christian has success getting this fight to the mat consistently and getting a sub. Now, could he get a sub? Absolutely good, but I think on the feet, he's completely outmatched. Could he land a knee? Yeah, but if Ibo Aslan ain't putting you out, I don't think Kevin Christian's putting you out on the feet. I feel like Elekana's going to just piece him up. And I understand -230 on Elekana. You're like, that's a steep line, but I think it's safe. He opened it -140, and if you got on that, I think it was -140. I could be wrong on that. But it was somewhere around there. If you got on that, congrats to you. That is That was the line. But minus 230, I still think Billy Elekana is the side. We're going to take him here to get this one done. But let me know what you think. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'll end up in Kevin Christian's story again. We'll see. Thank you, guys. We'll get a matchup at 125 pounds. Allan Nascimento takes on Cody Durden. Now, Cody Durden is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Now, also, Cody Durden taking this on short notice, stepping in, saving this matchup. Allan Nascimento's original opponent fell out. So Durden steps in. He's 1-4 in his last 5, like I was saying, but the level of competition is the upper echelon. I mean, he's losing to the top level guys in the division. And sometimes it's like he's winning until he's not. You know what I mean? So there is that. The 1-4, you kind of get some of it, right? Because when he takes that step back down in competition, he wins like he should. He's fighting the 4-1 in the last 5 for Nascimento. Now, Nascimento, he's 21-6 on the career. We haven't really seen what that level is that's going to start setting him back. So maybe he's just not there yet. We're going to find out if he can overcome the Cody Durden obstacle. Now, this is an interesting fight. Cody Durden, good striking, right? He hasn't always been, but his striking is really developed. The guy has put in the work. His takedown threat has always been there, and that's always set up the overhand. That's been part of the arsenal for a long time. He's always had the forward pressure. He's always had decent power in the hands. It's the dirty boxing and the short combinations that he's really starting to put together. He does a lot of two and three punch combinations, and then that dirty boxing has really come a long way that he didn't have maybe when he first came to the UFC, at least not to the level that he has now. His grappling, it's always kind of been there. That's something that's a staple. It's solid. He's a really good wrestler. Now, can he be susceptible to putting his neck into some submissions at times? Sure. Wrestlers can do that at times, specifically Cody Durden, but he also is gritty as heck and can fight his way out. But he does have good takedowns. He'll shoot a lot of them. He's relentless with them, and he will chain wrestle. That's what you like to see. He's got pretty good takedown defense as well. He sprawls really well, and he starts fast. High motor guy. This guy can put it out there, but his cardio hasn't been as good lately for some reason, and I think it might be because he's starting to strike a whole lot more, and I think that fatigues him more than the wrestling does, because he's been wrestling, pretty much his whole career, right? But his striking, that's something he's kind of dipping into a little bit more, and that's kind of fatiguing him a little bit more. That's my opinion, my thought, my hypothesis on it. But I could be wrong. I'm speculating. I don't know. I'm not Cody Durden. I don't know the answer to that. But he has seemed to fade a little bit faster in fights than he used to. And I think maybe that's part of it, but maybe not. On the other side, now on Nascimento. Decent striking. It's not good, but decent. He's got power because he's a big dude, right? He's a big guy for the flyweight division. In fact, who knows if he'll make weight, but big dude comes forward with good pressure. There's that. But it's the grappling, the jiu-jitsu. Now, his jiu-jitsu is the type of jiu-jitsu that can be frustrating if you're backing him at times, but it's really solid, right? He's got really good sweeps, really good scrambles. His submission arsenal is super diverse. He attacks those submissions. He's got excellent control, but he doesn't have the best takedown defense, and he sometimes is just content to work from his back because he knows that he has the options for submissions. Not always content to work from his back. We saw him work his way to the top in his fight against Filho, whatever. But either way, we saw him do that, but sometimes you see him just, play from his guard. And that's that. Here's the deal. I'm going to tell you now that I think Nascimento probably catches a sub here. I'm going to pick him, but don't switch fights yet. I want to tell you this. I'm taking Nascimento right now for the pick, but there's a real possibility that if Cody Durden decides to keep this on the feet, that he outboxes Nascimento, or a more likely possibility is that Durden could end up on top. And Nascimento could be going from the bottom and maybe get deep on a couple of submission attempts, but not finish them. We see Durden grit through something. And Durden's landing some decent ground and pound. And sure, he almost gets finished in every single round because Nascimento's almost got him in a sub. He's not landing a ton of strikes, and Durden's landing strikes from the top, and all of a sudden, Durden's edging out these rounds. There's a very real possibility of that. So I'm going to take Nascimento, thinking he probably gets a sub here. A short notice Durden usually shows up on short notice, to be honest, but still, short notice Durden against a guy that is a tough stylistic matchup for him. But there's a world where Durden wins this, and that's enough to keep me off of Allan Nascimento, and it might be enough to keep you off. I don't know. But either way, let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next fight. Matchup at 170 pounds. Chuck Buffalo, a.k.a. Charles Radtke, takes on Daniel Frunza. Frunza is 4-1 in his last 5, 3-2 for Radtke. Now, when we look at these odds, Cloudbet's got you covered. Charles Radtke, minus 156, and he's taking on the plus 137 Daniel Frunza. Now, this might be Radtke's first time being a favorite in the UFC. Maybe. I know that I have historically backed Charles Radtke more than I probably should have. I mean, what was I thinking when I picked him against Carlos Prates? That was a stupid pick. That was a really stupid pick. And then when I picked him again against Mike Malott, that was a stupid pick. Oh, that was a really stupid pick. But I've also got a few picks right on him, okay? Because I picked him in every single one of his UFC fights, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm drawn to Charles Radtke's fighting style. Because the guy's super awkward in interviews. It's not like he's like, man, I really like this guy because he's so funny. And like, it's just super awkward. But for whatever reason, I end up picking him in these fights, and I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But just so maybe take that into account when you're listening to my like picks. But focus on the analysis because I can still tell you what this stuff is, even if I pick wrong. Okay, just whatever. Either way, Daniel Frunza, a guy that I wasn't super high on for going into his contender series fight, and then I was like, man, this guy looked better than I thought. Right? He won a fight that I thought he was going to lose for sure. And then he loses in the UFC in a fight that I was like, well, I mean, he did so well in the contender series. Maybe he'll do all right. And then he lost. So I'm horrible at picking Frunza fights. Take that for what you will. That's all I got to say. Either way, let's break these guys down, right? So Daniel Frunza, he's kind of just a striker. He's got good forward pressure, good striking in general, good leg kick, and a lot of power. He's got a really heavy cross, but he overextends. So he'll throw this cross, and when he does, the lead hand will drop, and then he'll bring this one down instead of right back to his face. Why is that a problem? It's right here. We'll talk more about it in a minute, but that's right there. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. When it comes to the grappling defense for Frunza, doesn't have good takedown defense, and he can get held against the cage. So there's that. When I look at Charles Radtke, he has some similar stuff on the feet, in that being he's a good striker with good forward pressure and good power. Those are very similar, right? The difference is it's the counter lead hook. That is what Radtke can land right here if that cross does not drop him. If that cross doesn't drop Radtke, that counter lead hook is coming back. So that's something to watch out for. However, you look here, Radtke's striking defense isn't very good either. Part of it's because he's like 5'9", so he's usually shorter than his opponents. Not always. It's welterweight. There are some 5'9" guys, but you know, he's on the shorter end of the division. But he's durable. I know he's been finished, but like usually he's pretty durable. The guys finishing him are pretty darn good. So good grappler. So maybe take this one with like an asterisk. He's like pretty durable, but I wouldn't say it's like, you know, top elite level. He's a good grappler. He should have a severe edge in the grappling. Advances position well. He's really opportunistic with his submissions. I think if he pushes Frunza up against the cage, he can beat him up a bit, take him down, and probably sub him. So I think that would go really well for him. And I think this is right here. So once again, I'm going to take Chuck Buffalo. But if history tells you anything, I'm going to pick him in all of his fights for some reason. I hope the next fight that they have for Radtke is somebody that I pick against him in that match, just so I can finally shake this. But like, I can't get myself to take Frunza knowing this and banking on this. So I get why he's a favorite, but I don't know. Take that for what you will. See you next match up next. Isaac Dulgarian takes on Yadier Devaye. We're going to talk about the odds in a minute, but first let's talk about their records. We have 7-1 or 4-1 in the last 5 for Dulgarian. A lot of people will argue that he's 8-0. Probably could have got the Rodriguez win. So, you know, take that for what you will. On the other side, for Devaye, 9-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Both of these guys have really good records, right? Really clean, squeaky clean records. When we look at Devaye, we're going to start over there. He's a good striker with clean, straight punches, good knees, and a lot of power. Now, the problem is, because he's got good power, occasionally he can fall into the trap of just launching power shots. That can be a problem. But outside of that, his striking is going to be the better striking in this matchup, I do believe. He's a solid grappler as well. He attacks submissions really well. He's super active from his back, really good scrambling ability. When he's using his ground and pound, he uses it effectively to open up submission attempts. But he does jump a lot of guillotines, whether that be from the top, like standing, or like if he's on the bottom just looking for the guillotine. Which is good and bad, because it's good if they're successful, right? You know, or if he can use them to get back to his feet, things like that. But it's not so good because you typically end up on your back jumping for a guillotine. So There's that. On the other side for Isaac Dulgarian, he's a decent striker, but mostly it's because of the wrestling threat, and he's able to come in and just throw straight punches to close the distance, and he does that fairly well. His grappling, though, is very, very good, specifically his wrestling. He's got solid takedowns, really nice entries, a really good single leg, and he can mat return the daylights out of you, right? He's got the ability to just keep putting you on the mat when you get back up. He does have good control, though. So the mat returns aren't just like he keeps doing that over and over. Once he gets you down and can secure his position, he's really good at maintaining against most fighters. He's got really good scrambles, really good ground and pound, vicious elbows. His pace is extremely important in this matchup because he does a really good job at outpacing guys. However, if you force him to work, he can slow down. We saw that in the Rodriguez fight. But you have to really force him to work because this guy doesn't have bad cardio, but he's putting out a lot of output. And if you can really, really make the guy work, he will slow down. But he is a real menace to deal with before that. Now here's where we look at the odds. Because Devalle is a big-time underdog over on Cloudbet at plus 213. The favorite, Dulgarian, at minus 247. Now, that surprised the heck out of me because, one, Dulgarian is the only guy in this fight with a loss. So there's that. I mean, we've never seen Devalle lose. So it's not like, oh, well, we know that this guy loses when this happens. Well, you can't know that. That if you think you know that, I don't know what you're looking at. He hasn't lost, right? He's 9-0. So that surprises me that an undefeated fighter that has looked pretty darn good so far is plus 213. I would argue there is value on the underdog. That said, I'm going to take Isaac Dulgarian. In fact, I think if you're going to be betting this fight, you probably have to go Devalle because of the line, but I don't think he wins. But I think he can win. I think he really can win. I think he's got a real path. But I do think more often than not what happens is this fight is competitive, but Dulgarian's going to be on top more often than not and winning the rounds. And I don't know that Devalle is going to get him out of there. And I think Dulgarian's going to probably win this fight 2-1. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be close. We're going to see a lot of back and forth action, but I think Dulgarian gets it 2-1. And I don't think he necessarily covers the price, for example, but I just don't think he wins. So I'm going to take him and I'm going to kick my feet up on the coffee table. I'm going to crack open a nice ice cold root beer and I'm going to enjoy this fight for what it is. And that should be an absolute grappling banger. Let me know what you guys think. A really well-matched fight here at 170 pounds by my estimations where Jeremiah Wells takes on Themba Gorimbo. Gorimbo is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 3-2 for Wells, but similar records overall where he got 14-5 versus 12-4, so 12-4-1. But that makes it similar. Now, the odds are kind of close, right? Gorimbo, you can get these over on Cloudbet, by the way. Gorimbo's a minus 140, and currently it's the best line available from what I can surmise is the plus 123 on Wells. So if you like the dog, you like the odds there. Link in the description. Now, when we look at Gorimbo, we're going to start on his side, right? There's a lot to like, and then there's a couple of holes that are kind of just, man, if he can tighten those up, the guy could be pretty darn good. But right now he's got some good going for him, but he's not quite bridging that gap just yet. Good striker. He's got good counters, and he uses his range well. He's a long, kind of lanky guy. He'll come forward and still kind of be able to use that range to his advantage. He's got really solid kicks and a lot of power. Gorimbo's the type of guy that if you're going like a super technical striking fight, like against a really technical striker, yeah, you can get ahead on him. But he is skilled and he does have good timing on his counters. He keeps you at his range well, and his kicks are very, very solid. In the grappling, if he's on top, he's doing well. If he's on the bottom, dude's got nothing. He's decent on the takedowns, ground and pound's pretty good, decent top control, but once you get this guy to his back, he's kind of toast. Now, the problem for that is he's fighting Jeremiah Wells. Because Jeremiah Wells, although he's a good striker, he's basically just a powerful counter striker. I almost put him down to decent, but because he does have power like he does and is really good on the timing those counters, I bumped him up to good. He just does that one thing really well, is powerful counters. And I think it's good enough. Grappling, but I would say Gorimbo has more weapons on the feet. But for grappling for Wells, this is where he can shine. Now, his takedowns aren't always the best, but he can just kind of bully his way through opponents. If he can get a hold of you, he can bully you to the mat. And I think that's what he needs to do here, because once he gets on top, he's working to advance his position. He's extremely physical. And if he gets to the back, he's very good and has a pretty good rear naked choke. It's a tough fight, but I think if Wells fights to the right game plan, he's a very live underdog. And I'm going to take him here at plus 123. Give me Jeremiah Wells to go to the grappling and fight the way he needs to fight to get this win. We're taking Jeremiah Wells. I don't feel the best about it because Demba Garimbo could come out there and just starch him. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll see the big boys at 265 pounds. Ante Delija takes on Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Interesting fight because this is Delia's second fight in the UFC. Cortes-Acosta has been around for a bit, right? He's done pretty well. He's 4-1 in his last 5, 14-2 on the career. The guy's looking pretty good. Only one loss in their last 5 fights, no big deal. Similar for Delia, 4-1 in his last 5, made his UFC debut and actually got the win. So, contrary to popular belief, apparently fighters coming over from PFL can win their debut. Just depends on the circumstances. So, Delia did it. And when we look at the odds, this fight is really, really close. Cloudbet's got Cortes-Acosta at minus 104, and they've got Delia at minus 108. So both of these guys, you see a little minus next to their number. That means this is a gosh darn close fight. You don't get that a lot. So that's what you like to see. There's an absolute pick 'em on the odds. And honestly, I think it's a super close fight. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't have a really strong take on this, but I'm gonna try to break this down, and hopefully you can come away with your own opinion. I'll give you a pick, but I mean, like I said, it's really close. I can see a path for both guys. When we look at this for Delia, we're going to start on his side. He is a good striker with good forward pressure. He's got good boxing combinations. The dirty boxing might be his best part of that. And he's got some pretty good power too. Nothing crazy, but good enough power. He's a good grappler. I think this could be a good path for him here. Now he's got good takedowns and good top pressure, as well as some good ground and pound. Problem for him though in the grappling, he does sometimes get held up against the cage. That's a spot where he's lost minutes in the past. It's not really Waldo's game, right? He doesn't really hold you guys up against a cage. He wants to box with you. And I think if it stays in the boxing range, that's where we're going to start to see some interesting competitive fights. So he could be there. But I think if Delia is going to be mixing in the grappling, I think that's his best bet. Now, when we look at Cortes-Acosta, good striker. He's got a really solid jab. He moves pretty well on the feet. Like, it's not, I mean, he's a heavyweight still. It's not like he's out there, just doing something super crazy, but he does have pretty good movement for a heavyweight, right? He's got pretty good combinations. Once he starts getting that jab going, he'll build off of that and start putting combinations together. He'll start working the body. The problem though, dude's got no leg kick defense, zero whatsoever. Now, Delia isn't like known for his leg kicks. Let's put it that way. He's not known for just being like a leg kick guy, right? He's no Chris Gutierrez, you know what I mean? But when you're fighting a guy like Cortes-Acosta, even if you're not like, man, leg kicks are my go-to thing, you got to start throwing him against this guy because he just doesn't defend them all. Now, he's durable, and he doesn't seem to show that the leg kicks are really affecting him too bad, but he's just going to let you tee off. So you might as well land some, get those numbers up, try to edge out some rounds by you're going to hit the leg kick. You might as well throw it here and there, right? So there's that. Decent takedown defense for Cortes-Acosta. It's not excellent, but it's not bad either. It's kind of in the middle. Honestly, this is a tough one, especially if they stay striking. And at that rate, I don't really know who I'd favor, but I do think that the grappling slightly leans to Delia. And if he goes in there with that game plan, as long as it doesn't tire him out too bad, I feel like Delia could probably edge this one out. So I'm going to take Delia, but, this is a toss-up at best. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the main event of the evening. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you've enjoyed yourself, if you've made it all the way to the main event, drop a like for me. It helps the video a lot and doesn't cost you a cent. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Let's talk about the main event. It's a 145-pound matchup between Steve Garcia, and he is taking on David Onama. Now, David Onama is the underdog, which you can get those odds on Cloudbet at plus 121 at the time of recording. On the other side, the favorite is Steve Garcia at minus 137. Now, when you look at these guys coming into this fight, both have had some pretty good momentum going their way. Onama, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Garcia, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Both of these guys are making that way towards the contention status, right? There are a lot of good fighters at the top of 145 pounds, and a lot of fighters that can make a good case for why they should be next for the title. I don't think either of these guys get to that spot necessarily with a win here, but I think they get to a place where maybe you're 1-2 fights away, potentially even just 1 fight away, especially with the right matchup. So this is a very important fight and a great main event for this Apex card. When we look at David Onama, dude's a good striker, right? This guy, when he comes forward, he's got a good jab, he's got plenty of power, and he can put together combinations. And a lot of times, he'll work his way into the clinch, where I think he actually has the best advantage in this fight if he gets to the clinch. Onama works surprisingly well in the clinch as opposed to, out at space with his striking. He's really good at mixing in those power shots, mixing in the the control with like the knees, the elbows, the punches around the outside, things like that. Does a good job at working that clinch with his striking. So it's not like they're separate entities per se, because he'll kind of clinch up, land his shots, go back to striking, and just keep doing that, and works pretty well there. So that's probably his best bet here. Decent grappling, but we've seen it be a bit of his kryptonite in the past. Takedown defense isn't the best, but he does have decent takedowns of his own, and if he gets on top, the ground and pound is very heavy. So for me, I think Onama's best strategy is probably to get to that clinch. On the other side, for Steve Garcia, he's a good striker as well. He's going to come forward with a lot of power, pretty good footwork too, good volume, the output, you like it. He's got good strikes from different angles, things like that. Kind of the way he kind of holds his hands kind of makes it so he's not just throwing your traditional, like you see the punches right here. They're coming from here, they're coming from here, they're coming from there, they're coming from wherever, right? That's something I'd like to see from Garcia. I think his best bet is to, as far as the striking range goes, stay on the outside and land his shots at distance. Now, when it comes to the grappling, I think he might have a little advantage here as well. He's got better takedown defense, does Garcia. He's got good top control and pretty good ground and pound as well. So all in all, I think Garcia, his path to victory, he can go to the grappling or keep this fight at distance and land his big power shots from range, hitting those odd angle shots. I do think the clinch is going to favor Onama, but outside of that, I think it's Garcia. And because of that, I'm going to take Steve Garcia to get the win in the main event. But let me know what you guys think, and I will see you next time. Catch you guys down the road for another UFC Vegas card next week.